Well, hello and welcome. This is GoingSoloMedia.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Media Network Radio, TV, and podcasts, number one internet radio, singles radio station. This is Let's Talk About Dating. My name is Barry Selby. I co-host with Christine Baumgartner, who actually this week is not with us. She is being called away to something she has to take care of, which is unfortunate. However, I'm extremely excited to have a guest host this week, whose podcast I've been on. Is Dr. Tari Mack out of Chicago. So, Dr. Tari, welcome to Going Solo Media and welcome to Let's Talk About Dating.
Thank you, Barry. So excited to be here.
So,
dating.
Absolutely, and I want to make a quick plug because I was on your podcast. Dear Data is a very, very fun podcast. I've listened to all the episodes because I'm a fan as well as being a guest. The conversations are so rich and so diverse. So, if you haven't already subscribed to her podcast on iTunes and everywhere else, do that because you'll learn some things. So I'll make sure that's clear.
Thank you, Barry.
Absolutely. So, and by the way, we'll give the show notes and information at the back end to show you where to find her and everything else. So we'll jump right into the topic. So the topic today, which you suggested, is the real reason to date.
Yes. Yeah.
So you want to put things on the table to start the conversation going?
Yeah, I think you and I were chatting just about how people often get frustrated. They get fed up with dating. They wonder, should I even keep trying? I haven't met the right person. Maybe it's not supposed to happen for me. And so, we wanted to talk about what is dating really about? Why is it important not to give up on yourself if love is something that you want?
Yes.
So we're going to unpack that today. There's a lot of different things we can talk about, I think.
I think we can, yes. I mean, Christine and I covered pieces of the puzzle, so this is nice to have another angle that we're talking about it. And the thing is, it's like, I know for many of my friends and peers and clients, dating was almost a be-all and end-all in itself. Like, there wasn't a destination. It's like dating was just a part of social life and didn't have a particular function except just to occupy time and meet somebody fun. And yet, the way I think you and I see dating is a means to an end. It is a directional focus that is meant to have a result beyond just dating.
Yeah. And, I think it depends on where you're at, what you're looking for. But for those people who really want to find a healthy, long-lasting relationship, you have to date in a very intentional way, right? And, if you're not looking for that, then it can be, go out and meet as many people as you want and have as much fun as you want.
So let's put the caveat up front. If you don't care about this conversation, just go ahead and date however you want.
Yes.
However, what we're suggesting is to actually take dating, I don't want to say seriously is the wrong word, but to make it important.
Yeah. And to be conscious and intentional about what it is you're looking for, what it is you're looking to create with somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's almost like, I come with analogies. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It's like almost like test driving cars. Is that you want to test drive enough cars to find the one you really want to have.
Yeah.
Dating isn't quite that mechanical. However, dating is a good place to discover a lot of what somebody's about. Obviously, certain things you won't learn about them until you've been with them 4 or 5 years, probably. But generally speaking, you can do some weeding, shall we say, early on by dating people and knowing what they are. What their friction points are that don't fit you. I'll put it that way.
Exactly. Yeah. And, I think it's really important. A very important part of dating is knowing yourself and knowing what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and also what you're bringing to the table, good and bad. Right. And I think a lot of people try to skip this step. They're not aware of what their own patterns are, what their own triggers are, what their own gifts are. They're just out there blindly meeting people. And I think a big problem with that is a lot of people date for secondary gain. And what do I mean by that? So a lot of people think they're out there looking for love. They say they want a relationship. And by the way, this was me years ago. The reason I do this work is because I had my own rocky journey to self-love and love. And so what is secondary gain? Well, a lot of people are dating to get attention. A lot of people are dating to get validation, to dress up and get cute and win people over. A lot of people are dating because they're bored or they're trying to avoid issues in their own life. And if you're dating for those reasons, you're not going to be on the right track to actually choose a good partner, be a good partner, and develop something strong.
Oh yeah, I'd say one of the biggest reasons people date is to avoid loneliness, which
Yeah.
is that thing of avoiding themselves. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this before, because I live this one myself, is that I've already found the relationship with myself is where I'm most alive and most fulfilled. And so any relationship I'm looking to have, dating or otherwise, has to be additive to that.
Yeah.
And which is in a way, it sounds like setting the bar higher, because the reality is, it's like, I value my time. And a lot of people are out there who don't value their time. So they're just dating to attempt to make their time pass more comfortably, so to speak, or more entertaining than on their own.
Right.
And for those people, as you said, they're like avoiding themselves. So to take the time to get to know themselves and to be willing to face those demons or those limitations that we avoid when we're looking at somebody else is where the real challenge becomes, but also where the gifts come from.
Yeah.
So you become more fulfilled. And that's the thing is, and flip it the other way around, is when you're out there in the world dating, meeting somebody, to meet somebody who comes to you, who you can see that they are needing you to make them feel better. It's kind of blatant.
Yes.
Versus somebody comes to you who you feel you can see their fulfillment and their ownership of themselves and their magnificence and who they are. And I'm definitely putting big words on this.
Mm-hmm.
But when somebody's really owning their life and they don't need a relationship, they're generally more attractive because of that.
Yeah, well, they will be more, right? They'll be more attractive to us depending on where we're at. So we attract,
Yes.
like attracts like, right? So depending on where we're at in our emotional development and our spiritual development and our, happiness, we wouldn't, if we're not yet there, we wouldn't probably be turned off by somebody who needed us. We'd feel good about that.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry,
Right?
you reminded me of a story in my own life.
Yeah, do tell.
It's funny because this has gone in two conversations the last 3 days. This is going back in my late 20s. I was in a seminar that basically went through a whole process, and on the last day we were giving each other positive feedback. And I dressed up in white for one of the processes on the weekend, which was a big stretch for me back then. To be visible and to be like in white was not my comfort zone. And one of the guys said, "Oh, you're a white knight," because I think my English accent was stronger back then too. And I was like, "Yeah, that's right." And of course, then he saw I had a car at the time, I had my white Toyota Supra, which he saw after the seminar. I said, "That's the perfect car. It's your steed. You have a white horse to ride on." And I was so bought into the magic of that, or I should say, the fantasy of that. So I got a license plate on my car that said "White Knight," which sounds wonderful, except that for a few years after that, I kept meeting damsels that needed saving from whatever was going on, from the dragons of their own life, so to speak. And I kept dating women, I shouldn't say dating women, but even going out socially with women who needed help, whether it was physical, emotional, mental. I had a knack for finding women who were not standing on 2 feet, energetically speaking. And it was tiring. Frankly, it was draining.
Yeah.
And at the end of that time, the surprise ending, so to speak, of that was I got so tired of this, I said, "I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I need to get rid of the license plate." 2 weeks after I said that, my car got stolen.
Oh my, the universe was like, "You are done with that."
Yep, exactly. Some of those lessons sometimes had to be really big for us to get the billboard signs about what we need to learn. It's like sometimes you get the lessons that big.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But it also points out, something I talk about a lot, which is unconscious attraction.
Yes.
Right. So we have chemistry and we're attracted to people that help us recreate our old roles from childhood, who, reinforce our beliefs about ourselves and our roles in relationships. And until we become aware of those, we're just going to keep playing out these patterns that really don't give us what we want, because the templates we have had for love aren't usually very healthy, unfortunately.
No. And that's the thing. There are blind spots, literally.
Yeah.
There's such and because it's almost because um, we become numb to them because they're so used to them happening all the time, and so they're so familiar. We don't look at them as being wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge is that oftentimes, we go through things that are painful, and because we've done them repeated times, we get used to them. And then we don't think there's anything to fix because we're going, oh, that's just that, that limp, that's normal. It's nothing to be fixed.
Right.
Whereas when you try to look at it from a neutral place, we can go, hang on, that's out of alignment. That needs to be worked on.
Yeah. And I think we keep playing out these same patterns. We keep attracting and being attracted to the same types of people. And we keep showing up in the same ways, like the white knight, or, I had the same codependent tendencies. I wanted to save everybody. And
Right.
then we get these patterns reinforced, like, well, this is how my relationships go, but we don't recognize we're creating that. We're participating in that. So we just wait to meet a better person. We're like, well, okay, next time I'm going to meet the right guy or the right woman.
Well,
No.
that's only if we think there's a better choice.
Well, that's true.
I mean, I know, because during that time, I didn't think there was no other. I mean, yes, at the end when my car got stolen, that was a pretty clear sign, spirit going, knock, knock, knock. There's a better choice out there.
Mm-hmm.
But during that time, I was thinking that's the best I could get. And I thought that I was doing the right thing. And I figured that was normal. All those words that limit us. So it is about first becoming aware there's a choice.
Yes. But don't you think, like, back at that time, didn't you think, well, like when a relationship would end, would you ever think, well, if I meet the right woman, then it'll work out?
There was a bit of like, do better next time sort of thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily like the perfect one was out there, but just like just incrementally slightly better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be honest, looking back, I don't think I did that very well for that period of time. It's the same old every time. It's like, different place, different environment, same experience.
Right. It's like we keep recreating the same relationship with a different person.
Absolutely. Right? Oh, God.
Yeah. Which, another reason to date, the real reason to date, which is our title, relationships are a vehicle for change and awareness and growth if we allow them to be. And that's the big piece is we have to be willing to look at ourselves and our patterns. And even in a relationship, like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I making these choices? Why am I reacting this way? And, is this in alignment with who I want to be? Right. And then, like you said, as we become more aware, we make better choices. Every relationship gets a little better.
That's like, I'm tempted to go a couple places, and I'm going to be careful what I say because I don't want to upset certain people. Let me just say this, because I've dealt with a few of these in the past. In the dating arena, there are certain people who do matchmaking type work. I'm going to be very careful about this. I've got some friends who are matchmakers now, but I'm not disrespecting them. But certain people, their focus is just getting people paired off.
Yep.
Without any preamble, without any qualification, without any verification. And as you put it, which I think is totally true, is relationships are about that journey of growth. I look at relationships as an opportunity to evolve and grow with somebody and to become better than you were before, ideally. And I'm not saying you weren't great before, but relationships we've been trained to look at relationships as like you meet somebody, you settle down, which is a very limiting perspective.
Yeah.
And it's like you get married, you settle down, you have kids. Why do you want to settle for anything? Mm-hmm. So the languaging is stuff. And I mean, looking back at my own parents, and they were together basically 59 years to my mum passed away in 2012. Mm-hmm. Their relationship wasn't perfect. It was loving, but it was also it wasn't very expressive, and it wasn't transformational the way I would look at transformation now. But back then, of course, being a kid in that family, that was normal.
Yeah.
And so for me, in my journey, it was the parallel journey outside of my business and outside of my relationships to learn and grow and become more effective at being what I call a more authentic person, more whole, more joyful, more expressive, more transformed. And so my perspective on relationships has evolved because of that. And I know a lot of people out there who haven't done necessarily the workshop, seminars, book reading, retreats, whatever, they may not see that part of the journey as being maybe their ideal at this point. Mm-hmm. So I know that both you and I see relationships as a transformational and evolutionary possibility, but some people may not be there yet.
Right.
So I'm not sure how you talk to them about this.
Well, I think a lot of people who come to me and a lot of people in the world are focused on outcome, right? They just want the relationship. They just want the partner.
Yeah.
And that focus on outcome is what keeps us from growing and expanding and transforming. It's like we find the person and then we cling to the person. We've got to make this work. It's got to be this person. It's got to be this relationship, regardless of how we're feeling, regardless of how, like expansive and safe the relationship is. And
Yeah.
so, anyone can be in a relationship. Being in a relationship is not hard, but being in a relationship that really honors who you are and helps you feel joyful and full and free and, allows you to grow, that's what we should be aiming for. But a lot of people haven't been even shown that possibility. That's like a mind-blowing concept.
I would. There's some. It's true. I mean, that's the thing. Is again, most people are looking for a relationship, that, and the outcome, as you said, is perfect on that because it is about they just want to find somebody, anybody, and I know. It's like I think that song's running in my head as well. But the recognition of just the opportunity to grow, and it's funny. I mean, to be honest, I didn't get that until 20 years ago. It's been a long time since I've known it, but recognizing that every relationship I was in was really the one that was a relationship of opportunity in a way. It was a relationship that was like, oh, nice. She's cute. Let's dance and see what happens. And so that, getting back to the title, was an opportunity of dating versus a real choice about dating, and to really choose why I'm dating. And now, because being single and doing a match on some of the dating apps, so I'm exploring that now. I'll date tomorrow. Is that these dates are interesting because I'm watching, and this is dangerous territory now, being a coach, to go out with somebody and enjoy the conversation and not be watching for the patterns that I know are there. So it makes dating challenging. In a way, that's one of the gifts and the curses of being in the work I'm in. I'm sure you have a similar experience. Is that we go in knowing maybe too much about relationships to be a safe person to date.
Yes.
Unless the person we're with, and that's the thing, talking about relationships being a transformational journey. Well, ideally, if you're doing this work, you want to find somebody who's done the work too, so that you're on the same page of evolution. So you know that the patterns, the issues, the limits are conscious, not subconscious as much. So that way you see things and you grow with them versus they want to just hang on and be in a relationship, and you're just like, but we want to go somewhere. We want to grow. We want to, have a destination or have a journey to go on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, people who are in relationships aren't necessarily happy. People who are single, aren't necessarily miserable. But the grass is always greener. And I think a lot of people who are not in a relationship feel like once they get that relationship, they'll be happy. But it doesn't work that way.
No,
If you're not happy already, you might be happy for a short period of time, but nobody can
very short. Yeah.
You. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you got to learn to water your own grass first of all.
Exactly.
And secondly, you've definitely got to be willing to look in the mirror. And because the thing is, the comparison method doesn't work.
No.
And I know, having personal being happy to being single and actually being more happy now than I was in some past relationships, for sure. And then seeing people around me who were in a relationship and miserable, and people who are single who are miserable. It's like there's a whole gamut out there.
Yeah.
So cutting back the title again, just to keep bringing that in for the moment, is that real reason to date is not just to find someone to be happier with because you don't feel happy being single. Because frankly, if you weren't being happy being single, you won't really be much happier in a relationship because you're still bringing all of your stuff with you into that relationship.
Right. And you'll be looking to somebody else to fill you up and make you feel a certain way. Nobody can do that. Nothing external can make you happy for a sustained period of time. So a lot of people are looking externally for what they need to learn how to give to themselves internally.
Right.
And it sucks. I mean, I tried to avoid that for years. I just kept looking for the person,
So that one right there was a gem. Like, nothing outside is going to make you, it's not going to make you happy. It's not going to make you whole. It's not going to make you feel better.
No.
You said temporarily.
Yeah, temporarily. I mean, it's like any addiction, right?
Right.
It's like drugs, alcohol, gambling, sex, shopping, love, it's a cycle. And until you really develop that relationship with yourself and really value yourself and being with yourself, you can't accept a level of love greater than the love you have for yourself. Again, temporarily, it might feel really good, but it's not going to last.
No.
You'll find a way to sabotage it. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna go ding ding ding. It was like that was, right at that point, it was like, write that one down. It's so key, and that's again that the other about dating just to fill up the cup to temporarily distract yourself is such a. Now let me be clear. For some people, that's enough. That's all they want to do. That's all they'll play with. But the conversation we're having is about having a conscious relationship, an awake relationship.
Yeah.
And I know last week Christine and I talked about how aware are you. And it's like that thing is that when you start becoming more aware, the price you'll pay is you won't want to settle for an average relationship or average dating for that matter. So this topic is relevant now because now you're starting to see there's more to life than just getting by. There's more to dating than just seeing somebody else.
Yeah.
So this is a juicy conversation.
Totally. Yeah. And I always say, we weren't put here to go through the motions. There's so many more levels of, being seen and feeling joyful and, just showing up than most people realize. And if you haven't had models of those relationships, you don't even know they exist. And many of us have not had models of those relationships.
I was going to say, very few of us have parents who showed us that. Hopefully we, as the new adults, will be a better model for the future. I know you have two daughters, and I'm sure you're teaching them differently than you were raised.
Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. And that too, I'm sure I'll screw them up in other ways. I'm human.
You said that publicly. You sure you want to say that?
But I'll make different mistakes, and that's okay.
Right. But the thing is also is the relationship you have with them is you will hopefully be faster to catch yourself, and secondly, you won't berate yourself over the head for making the mistakes. Give you something to do that. So. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's part of having a loving relationship with yourself is never, ever, ever being self-critical, judgmental, having negative self-talk. You always need to look at yourself through a lens of self-compassion and love and curiosity.
Absolutely.
Right? The other stuff just isn't, it just hurts you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're going to come back on that topic and go in a bit deeper once we come back from the break. So thank you for being with us and stick around because we'll be back in about a minute or so after we have a few words from our sponsors and more to talk about. So stay tuned. And we're back.
Here we are.
Indeed. So welcome back to the show. This is Going Solo Media. This is Let's Talk About Dating. My name is Barry Selby. My special guest host is Dr. Tari Mack. And we're talking about the real reason for dating. And as we ended the first section talking about the real work's inside, that's the funny thing is that in a lot of times the marketing, I know for myself with talking about with clients, is that I'm not necessarily going to help you find the perfect love out there, but I'm going to help you find the love inside. But a lot of people don't get that. They're like, no, just find me the date, which is the whole thing we're talking about here, you know?
It sounds so much more sexy, right? We're like, no.
So we're almost lying because we're saying, like, we're going to help you find an amazing relationship, but we're going to start here.
You have to.
Right. I know.
Right?
It's just that yeah, sorry, after you.
No, yeah, I was going to say, but many of us were not taught that. We don't know that, the relationship we have with ourselves sets the stage and the expectations for every other relationship. And I mentioned unconscious attraction before. The one kind of unconscious attraction says that we choose partners who help us replicate these old childhood templates, roles, patterns. But the other kind of unconscious attraction says that we feel attraction and chemistry for partners who reinforce how we feel about ourselves, which just goes to show how important that journey of self-love is. If we don't treasure and value ourselves and really love ourselves, then if we meet somebody who could love us that way and really sees how amazing we are, we will probably self-sabotage it. It'll feel good in the beginning, but it won't feel familiar or comfortable, so we won't be able to tolerate it.
That is, I mean, the thing is, in a way, hang on. Try it again. One of the things I know that I talk about a lot is there definitely is the parental input we had in the way we raise as kids, that we tend to choose relationships without thinking because it's subconscious, that mirror back to us how we were raised. Yeah. But that second piece about being reflecting back to us who we are, you could almost use that as your feedback system. Like, notice who you're attracting, because that's reflecting back to you where you are looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
So then if you do use it consciously, again, for your own empowerment, and you take it on as a choice to be a more positive direction, you start noticing people, like, especially if you see like 700 different people come to you the same way energetically, and you notice that's the same thing happening. So where am I missing inside myself when that's still happening inside here?
Right. Why do I keep getting the same type of person? What is this type of person trying to teach me or show me, right? That lesson that we keep getting over and over again. It's like, what do I need to learn here? I remember, like, I was in my late 20s and I was going through this horrible breakup with a guy who was probably a sociopath, somebody with little to no empathy, just like lied and cheated. And I was going through this horrible breakup, and my therapist at the time made just sort of an offhand comment about, like, the parts of me that must be, in need of healing or must be unhealthy because I chose this person and stayed with this person for 8 months. And I remember at the time, it was just like a slap in the face. I mean, it rang true, but I hadn't thought of it that way before. Like, what parts of me were attracted to this and tolerated this for so long? And so I think it's so true. Our partners are a mirror for us, right?
And that's the thing, is we don't, that one of the problems of being an unconscious data, so to speak, is that we never look in the mirror. We don't see what we didn't do or did in the past. That's in my throat. Excuse me again. What we didn't notice is that we're leaving this this wreckage behind us of the relationships that we did the same thing again every single time.
Yeah.
And if we choose, and part of the conscious dating, so to speak, is to be willing to look in the rearview mirror. Not all the time, but just notice what we did before. And if we're doing the same thing again, that's not changing. And it does require us to do the work. And that's why in my work, I'm so passionate about this, I know you are too, is to really help our clients stand on 2 feet, but also to start claiming for themselves the deservedness that we really have, and to do the work to get there, because it isn't an overnight success necessarily. But oftentimes it takes a little bit of redirection. But once we get those, get the understanding and then heal those wounds that we carry, because we do carry wounds, then our dating reflections elevate.
Yeah. It's so true. The healthier we get, it's like we access different levels of people. We access a new level of healthy partners. So the healthier we get, two things: one, the more we attract healthy people, and two, the more we're attracted to healthier people. So it's really that that self-awareness piece is so important, because otherwise we're just going to keep recreating the same things over and over again. And part of that awareness are the fears that run our patterns. When I talk about unconscious attraction and we keep choosing the same people, we keep replaying the same patterns. What runs those dynamics, those choices, those patterns are fear, deep set beliefs that are run by fear. Like when somebody doesn't text you back right away, you probably tend to respond the same way every time, and you can trace it back to fear. When somebody starts to get closer to you, you probably tend to respond in the same way, and you can trace that back to fear. So it's really getting in touch with what fears are running my life, or what fears are running my love life. And once you become clear on those fears, usually we have about two or three, like really deep fears, we can start to reprogram those, and set ourselves free.
It's yeah. Oh, that's like a bomb you just drop people's lap to go here. Be aware of this piece. It's interesting because somebody in my club I started talking about this, and I've been reading the book called Attached, the attachment
Oh, yeah.
styles.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. Although I definitely have different opinion on some of the pieces they talked about, even though I'm not a therapist, scientist, or anything else. But the fundamentals they talk about is that recognition of our attachment styles is another piece of this. And so the one of the reasons that we talk about this work, yes, doing the deeper work and doing the shadow work and healing those patterns and sorting the cycles out, but also there's some simple stuff you can do. Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages. If you simply learned your love language, it might transform the way you date. You start seeing where you haven't necessarily seen love from your partner because you had to hear it from them versus feel it from them, or whatever it was. And then same with attachment styles. If you learn what your attachment style is and you start working on transforming it, you'll choose your dates differently.
Yeah.
And so again, that work we're talking about here, which we've both been adamant about, is to really own and honor your process, and to be willing to face your own, well, as you said it, the fears that we carry inside. Because those fears are generally wired into something from when we were very young.
Yes.
And that is the fundamental work. And so dating isn't necessarily something, well, I'll wear a different tie today or different shoes. It's like, no, what is the inner process, the self-reflection, the journey we've been on as people that has got us to where we are now? Because that's going to be telling you, that's the piece again. Another reason dating is important is because it gives you a reflection of where you are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's very true. And again, not focusing so much on the other person, but more on yourself. Why have I made these choices? Why am I continuing to make these choices? And, that boundaries are such an important word. I know it's such a loaded word now. It's really
Yeah.
like where you choose to set your boundaries will either make your life easier or harder. It will make, it will make your relationships better or worse. And you can't possibly know where to set healthy boundaries that feel good if you're not aware of how you feel, or what feels good to you or what feels bad to you.
Right. Yeah. If you here's a clue. Like if you have been in relationships all the time where you let the person do whatever they wanted and they steamrolled you all the time, that's an indication you definitely need boundaries in place.
Right. And that is connected to some kind of fear, probably fear of abandonment, or fear of, not being lovable, or, there's certain fears that run these patterns.
Yes. And that's why I've read before, and I know you talk about it too. We get, and I think you said it earlier in the show, is about the imprinting we take on when we're kids, that we don't know consciously we're choosing this, but as young children, our parents modeling for us of the way they relate becomes the imprint that goes into our subconscious of how we think loving is. Excuse me, how we believe loving is, not think about it because it's not conscious. Yeah. And then when a conscious mind comes in on top like a gatekeeper and says, okay, that's it. From this point on, I choose to decide what I'm going to think. But meanwhile, there's several years of study that's gone behind that that's already in there. That's running autopilot. So those automatic dates, that's the choices we make as adults in a relationship that comes from that subconscious mind behind the gate, so to speak, is running the show until we bring light to it, shine light in there and say, hang on a second, why am I still choosing those sort of people?
Yeah.
So those fears oftentimes are just simply a lack of awareness because we're not choosing to see ourselves clearly.
Yeah.
So this dating practice is an opportunity to start seeing ourselves more clearly.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. That's the real reason to date, right? Is to, well, it is to find love, right? If you want
Yes.
love, then it's meant for you and you're supposed to have it. But
I've heard,
it's
I've
not
heard that said somewhere. Where do I hear that? Oh, it's right on your podcast.
Yes. What you want is what you yearn for is meant for you.
Yeah, it's one of your quotes, which I love that quote. So yeah, I just plug that again. And it's true. Yeah, I know we have said about dating, the work and the transformation and the shadow and everything else, but the reality is, yes, it is about love too.
Yeah. If
The
you
goal is
want
love.
to be in partnership, then that, those yearnings we have are a clue, an indication about what's on our highest path. And they're
Yeah,
just waiting for us to access them. And the way we access them is to come into alignment with who we really are and pay attention to ourselves and learn how to love ourselves and treat ourselves well and listen to our own inner wisdom. That's how we get on the highest path,
right.
right? But a lot of
Yeah.
people aren't even aware that that's a process. They're just like, give me the person. Give me the
But it's just any person will do, as long as they're the right gender and the right age. I'm good to go.
Exactly.
That is the thing. That's one of the problems with the dating apps is they don't have much information in there to say beyond maybe political views and dietary choices what their personality style is like, what they really want.
Yeah.
That is one of the challenges. So it's important to, I would say, to vet your dates
Yeah.
to really get to know where they come from, what they've learned. Have they come across their own patterns they've resolved already, or they're totally oblivious?
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are scared to ask questions that they really want the answers to because they're afraid they're going to scare somebody off. And they might, we're going to scare off the right people.
Scare off the wrong people.
We're going to scare off the right people that we're supposed to scare off.
Just qualify that.
That's another way to say we'd scare off the wrong people. Yeah.
We scare off the people who need to be scared off. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. Yeah. But right.
So sorry, crack me up.
Let's just make it as confusing as possible.
Sure. Yeah,
But when we show up authentically, when we ask the questions that are important to us, when we, talk about the things that light us up, the right people are going to be attracted to us, the people that want to know us.
Right.
And I think so often, like a lot of the dating advice we get is like how to make ourselves palatable to somebody else, how not to scare somebody else off. And then we end up with the wrong people.
I'd rather scare away the people I don't want to be with. Yeah. The sooner the better.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's interesting because I've noticed this again, back to the dating app experiences. I notice people who reach out, like women who like say they like me. It's like, you don't know me. Be careful what you ask for. I said I've got a date tomorrow, and we've had a good conversation so far. So I already know, thankfully, that we have some common ground, because that's the challenge, is that when you are looking to date somebody, you can just do the simple niceties, go for dinner and then talk about the weather and stuff like that. Or you can say, what motivates you? What have you learned? What were your parents like? What are you looking to have? What are you looking to be? Who are you looking to become? Make the question conscious and make the conversation conscious. For one thing, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
But secondly, you might get to know that this person is somebody you really want to hang out with.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I want to point out is, if you're out there dating, probably most people you meet are not going to end up being your partner, but they could end up being, because it's you're going to meet more people than you're going to end up with, but you may meet good friends.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I imagine so, because I'm thinking the number of proportions, like, yeah, you meet a lot more people you would date. That's just serial dating.
Yeah. But if you're coming from a place of love and not fear, if you're being who you are, you may meet friends, you may meet
Right.
business associates, you may make other connections. And so I think that's important too, because if we're just singularly focused on, love, we might miss a lot of connections that we could potentially make.
I would say yes. I definitely have had a few first dates that became good connections and friends.
Hmm.
And the other part also, and this is the thing just to be aware of, is that you never know that somebody you might meet, their best friend might be the person you need to meet.
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
don't shoot everybody that you meet.
Yes.
You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and always show up being kind and, being who you are.
Right.
That's the best way to move through the world. And if you're not sure who you are, then you need to do some work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think I don't know. So any last thoughts you want to add to that, or is that pretty much sum it up for you? So I'm thinking we've basically scared a lot of people already, which is good.
We've covered a lot, but I think, yeah, just in sum, I think it's really important to look at yourself, right?
Yeah,
And relationships are a vehicle for us to learn about ourselves and to come into more alignment with who we really are and be intentional about what it is we want. And then you gotta hold that boundary. Don't settle for less than what you need or deserve, because what you settle for you get more of. What you tolerate you're going to get more of. So
absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
our responsibility.
In fact, I would say that we are we're suggesting strongly that you take time between dates. So you don't keep dating just to get somebody you might line up. Just actually take the time to get clear, because as I said earlier, the more you can learn from your previous dates, the more specific, more clear, and more ownership you have of your life, then the quality of relationship you attract will be different. Because again, as Terry said, it's like you will get reflected back to you where you are.
Yeah.
So if you want to change that, change this.
Yep. When we change, our relationships change.
Absolutely. So does everything else. Yes,
Yes,
indeed.
exactly.
So thank you for being the special guest this week on the show. I really appreciate you being with us. You want to you share just let where the people find you? I know it's in the show notes, but if you want to just let people know where they can find you and your podcast, so they can find you for your wisdom, insights, and support.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today, Barry. So on Instagram, I'm Dr. Tari Mack, and my website is drterrymack.com, and Terry is spelled Tari. And yeah, reach out. I'd love to talk with you, work with you. And my Instagram is a good place just for lots of like free wisdom, advice, inspiration.
I would definitely agree with that. I stalk her posts on Instagram, and
And
also
if
again after you.
and if you go to my website, you'll find the Dear Dater podcast there.
Yeah, and if you go on iTunes, you find it there too, and recommend it.
Yeah.
My episode's in there amongst
Spotify.
others. So you can, yeah, we had a good conversation about codependency. I remember it was a good conversation.
It was awesome. Find Barry's episode.
It was fun too. So you can find me on my website, which is barryselby.com. Just launched a new version of my website. It's still being polished, but it's definitely more easy to access. So to barryselby.com. You can email if you have any questions at barryselby.com. And our social media, and we got the list. It's Barry Selby on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, and Clubhouse. And on Instagram, it's the real Barry Selby, because the other account got hacked, so I don't have it anymore. So you can find me there. And this show, Christine and I usually do every week. It's 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. She should be back next week, and we'll have more fun and games and talk about then. And again, thank you, Tari, for joining us. And definitely make sure you're following her on Instagram and get her podcast, It Rocks. And with this show, you can find us every week. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again, same time, same channel next week. And choose your dates carefully.
Yes.
We'll see you again.